Kunja Bihari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jayo Krishna Balaram, Jayo Krishna Balaram, Krishna Balaram, Jayo Vrindavana Dham. Jayo Radha Shama Sundar, Radha Shama Sundar Shri Radhe. Jaya Gauranitai, 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 Jaya Gauranitai. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Jam Vishnupada Paramahamsa Parivarajacharya Ashtotara Sat Shri Srimad A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jam Vishnupada Paramahamsa Parivarajacharya Ashtotara Sat Shri Srimad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada ki jai. Jayam Vishnupada Srila Gaura Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj ki jai. Jayam Vishnupada Srila Sachidananda Bhaktivinoda Thakur ki jai. Jayam Vishnupada Vaishnava Sarabhoma Srila Jagannath Das Goswami Maharaj ki jai. Shri Rupa Sanatana Bhatta Raghunatha Shri Jiva Gopala Dasa Raghunatha Sadhu Goswami Prabhu ki jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki jai. प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासदि गौर भक्तवृंद की जय। श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपिका श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरि गोवर्धन की जय। श्री मायापुर वृंदावन धाम की जय। गंगमयी यमुनामयी की जय। भक्ति देवी तुलसी देवी की जय। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। श्री हरिनाम संकीर्तन की जय। ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय। इस्कॉन वर्तमान गुरु वृंद की जय। सामवेद भक्त वृंद की जय। गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि। All glories to assembled devotees. All glories to assembled devotees. All glories to assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Welcome for today's discussion on the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 3, entitled Karma Yoga. Text 33. sadṛśaṁ cetase svasyāḥ prakṛti jñānavān api prakṛtim yānti bhūtāni nigrahaḥ kariṣyati sadṛśaṁ cetase svasyāḥ prakṛter jñānavān api prakṛtim yānti bhūtāni nigrahaḥ kariṣyati ceṣṭate svasyāḥ prakṛter jñānavān api prakṛtim yānti bhūtāni nigrahaḥ kariṣyati
sadṛśaṁ ceṣṭate svasyāḥ prakṛter jñānavān api prakṛtim yānti bhūtāni nigrahaḥ kariṣyati sadṛśaṁ ceṣṭate svasyāḥ prakṛter jñānavān api prakṛtim yānti bhūtāni nigrahaḥ kariṣyati sadṛśaṁ ceṣṭate svasyāḥ prakṛter jñānavān api prakṛtim yānti bhūtāni nigrahaḥ kariṣyati
Mataji's.
sadṛśaṁ ceṣṭate svasyāḥ prakṛter jñānavān api prakṛtim yānti bhūtāni nigrahaḥ kariṣyati sadṛśaṁ ceṣṭate svasyāḥ prakṛter jñānavān api prakṛtim yānti bhūtāni nigrahaḥ kariṣyati.
Word to word meaning. Sadṛśaṁ, accordingly. Ceṣṭate, tries. Svasyāḥ, by his own. Prakṛteḥ, modes of nature. Jñānavān, learned. Api, although. Prakṛtim, nature. Yānti, undergo. Bhūtāni, all living entities. nigrahaḥ, repression, kim, what, kariṣyati, can do. Translation, purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Translation. Even a man of knowledge acts according to his own nature, for everyone follows the nature he has acquired from the three modes. What can repression accomplish? Purport. Unless one is situated on the transcendental platform of Krishna consciousness, he cannot get free from the influence of the modes of material nature, as it is confirmed by the Lord in the 7th chapter, 7:14. Therefore, even for the most highly educated person on the mundane plane, it is impossible to get out of the entanglement of Maya simply by theoretical knowledge or by separating the soul from the body. There are many so-called spiritualists who outwardly pose as advanced in the science, but inwardly or privately are completely under the particular modes of nature, which they are unable to surpass. Academically, one may be very learned, but because of his long association with material nature, he is in bondage. Krishna consciousness helps one to get out of the material entanglement, even though one may be engaged in his prescribed duties in terms of material existence. Therefore, without being fully in Krishna consciousness, one should not give up his occupational duties. No one should suddenly give up his prescribed duties and become a so-called yogī or transcendentalist artificially. It is better to be situated in one's position and try to attain Krishna consciousness under superior training. Thus one may be freed from the clutches of Krishna's Māyā. Om Ajnana-timirandasya Jnānanjana-shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya-manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhūtale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Vanchakalpatarubhyasya kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Welcome everyone for today's discussion of the third chapter, verse 33. So here Krishna is telling Arjuna not to give up the duties that he has acquired according to his own nature. So he's telling him not to repress. So before we go into the discussion of this verse, we want to see how is this knowledge applicable to present day. Bhagavad Gita is known as timeless knowledge. So why is it timeless knowledge? Krishna tells in Bhagavad Gita 9.1 that I am giving you this confidential knowledge, and along with the knowledge I am giving you realization, and it will free you from the miseries of the material world. And in 9.2 Krishna tells that this is the king of education. This knowledge is king of the education, and it is secret of all secrets. And it is purest, and anyone who performs it, they will have a direct perception, they will have realizations. And this is the highest of the religion, and it can be performed joyfully. So irrespective of the age, it is timeless because it is applicable in all times, in all ages. Because this is the highest of the knowledge, and it always helps the living entity to come out of the material miseries. But now, what is the problem with the Kali-yuga? Let's see a little bit about Kali-yuga. In Bhagavatam, it is explained, Prayena alpayushya sabhya kala asmin yuge janaha manda sumanda matayo manda bhagya upadrita. So, what is the characteristics of the people in the Kali-yuga? First of all, they are very short-lived. They are quarrelsome, they are lazy, they are misguided, they are lucky, and they are always disturbed. Now, and in the Purport, Prabhupada explains that how people's lives are being shortened in the Kali-yuga is especially by overeating, over-sense gratification, and over-dependence on other people's mercy. And also we are having artificial standards of living, which is all taking away the vitality of our life. Then we are lazy. The people of the Kali-yuga are lazy for the self-realization. But they're very active for the material sense gratification. And also, they have a very bad system of education. Prabhupada writes this one. They have a bad system of education, and that's why they cannot pursue self-realization. And even if someone is inclined to go and pursue self-realization, they become the victims of the so-called yogis and spiritualists. And on top of it, the Kali-yuga the atmosphere is surcharged with faithlessness. And everywhere you see, there is sense gratificatory diversions. There is cinema halls, smoking, drinking, cheating, bickering, and clubs, gambling, and then many other bad habits. And the brahmanas and the brahmacharis, there are no such brahmachari communities are upholded in the Kali-yuga. Grihasthas, they cannot follow their rules and regulations. Vanaprasthas and sannyasis, at a very slight agitation, they give up their chosen path. So Prabhupada says that it is very difficult for people to raise themselves to the spiritual standards, because the current standard is all about artificial material civilization. Now, but here, Karma Yoga, Kṛṣṇa is presenting in such a way so that we will be leading our lives according to the Shastra and Dharma. Now, we will see the division, and then I will explain why I was talking about the Kali-yuga people standards. Now, this chapter has 43 verses, and it has 4 divisions. And in the second chapter, if you notice, Kṛṣṇa explained about Karma Yoga, then he explained about Sankhya Yoga, he explained about Buddhi Yoga. But he didn't give it as an organized outline. But starting from chapter 3, he has put in a very organized way. So here Kṛṣṇa is teaching how to act with knowledge and along with detachment. Knowledge and detachment, how do you have both of them together? So first 9 verses talks about whether to renounce the work or whether to work in devotion. So here Kṛṣṇa highlights the point that either a jiva is getting liberated or bonded in the material world is not because of just the work, but it's the consciousness of the work that the jiva is performing. So he's saying, you work for the satisfaction of Vishnu. This is the work that is prescribed, whether you follow the Sankhya system or whether you follow the Karma Yoga system. Then from verses 10 to the 16, Kṛṣṇa scales from Karma Kanda to Karma Yoga. How do we make all the ritualistic activities transformed into Karma Yoga? By dedicating everything as a work offered as a sacrifice to Lord Vishnu. Now the third section, which we are currently in, this is from the verses 17 to 35. So here Kṛṣṇa is saying, you perform Karma Yoga in such a way that you are detached from the work, but you still perform as a duty. And then he gives an example of Janak Maharaj. And he also states himself as an example, that I also perform some duties, but to set as an example. So Arjuna, you also do it. Now the last section from verses 36 to 43, Kṛṣṇa warns us the dangers of lust and anger. And in this particular verse, verse 33, Kṛṣṇa is telling that one should work and they have to act according to their own nature. Because if someone is acting according to svasyāḥ, thank you. Svasyāḥ, by his own acquired nature of work, that work itself will purify him. So he's telling him, don't repress this. Because oftentimes the unfulfilled desire, even on a material level, it will push the living entity to perform a sinful action. So now the connection is with the Kali-yuga people, because they are not able to understand what are their prescribed duties, because they are not working under the governance of what Kṛṣṇa is suggesting in the Bhagavad Gita, there is only sinful activities. And these sinful activities are coming because they're trying to fulfill their unfulfilled desires. So here Kṛṣṇa is telling that do not repress. Now in verse 5 of this chapter, Kṛṣṇa tells that inaction is unnatural. Now Arjuna was asking in the beginning of the chapter that if you say, working itself is going to cause reactions, then why should I even work? Why should I wage then the war which will cause so much loss, destruction? Yes. Then Kṛṣṇa says that inaction is not possible. It's very unnatural for the living entity. Everyone is forced to act helplessly. Why are they forced to act? Because they have acquired these qualities from the three modes of material nature. Even in this verse, you see there is twice Kṛṣṇa mentions about the prakrti. Prakrti once is the modes of nature, and the second time prakrti is the nature. Because of the modes of material nature, one is acquiring the svasyāḥ, that the svabhav, like the nature in this material body, in the current material body. So, and then in verse 27, prakrte kriyamanani gunai karmani sarvasam. In that verse, Kṛṣṇa is introducing prakrti to Arjuna. Now, if you see, there are 5 truths that are described in the Bhagavad Gita. What are the 5 truths? Ishvara, Jiva, Kala, Karma, and Prakriti. So these are the 5 truths, and then these 5 truths is what we are revolving around. So although the relation between Ishvara and Jiva is straight, but because we are entangled in the Prakriti, we are performing some karma, right? And this is coming according to the Kala. It's predominant. It is determining when is the action is fructifying into the reaction, or when is the fruitive action has to be bestowed. So here Kṛṣṇa is telling that it is the deep-rooted conditioned nature. So svasyāḥ is like, it is almost your second nature. This is your second nature. Actually, the soul has, it is free from the material bondages. It is nothing to do with the material body or material conditioning. But because it has acquired this material body under the 3 modes, the second nature is determined by those 3 modes. And that, whatever the nature is determined by those 3 modes, the work, the prescribed duty, is not to be repressed, but it has to be engaged. Now, we will take an example from Mahabharata. Now, if you know the great warrior Kṛṣṇa, right? When Kṛṣṇa was born as a Kshatriya, but his identity was not known to him until the later of his life, right? He was always known as Sutaputra, because he was grown up as a son of Atirata, the charioteer of Bhishma Dev. Now, Kṛṣṇa had a burning desire to become an archer. He went to Dronacharya that please teach me. But Dronacharya, he didn't wanted to teach Kṛṣṇa because he doesn't belong to the family of Kshatriyas. Why is that? Because Drona knows anyone who becomes a greater archer or skillful beyond the Kshatriyas, they can be a threat to the Kuru dynasty itself. Keeping that into consideration, Dronacharya rejected Karna. But this burning desire of Karna didn't stop him there. He decided to go to Parashuram. Now Parashuram was very fixed up. He wanted to teach only to Brahmanas. He didn't want to give this knowledge of this weaponry to any other people from any other caste. So Karna lies, saying that I'm a Brahmana actually. Then he learns all this education. One day it happens so, the Parashuram is going in the forest along with Karna, and Parashuram was tired. And he tells Karna that I want to rest. Then Karna says, okay, you take rest in my lap. When Parashuram was lying down, there was an insect that comes and bites Karna. And it was a dreadful insect that the blood was oozing out of his leg. But Karna, because he saw that his teacher was sleeping, he didn't want to disturb, so he tolerated the pain. And once Parashuram woke up, he saw the blood and then he saw the insect. Then he asked Karna, why didn't you wake me up? He said that you're sleeping, I didn't want to disturb. At the very point, Parashuram was able to understand Karna is not a Brahmana, but he's a Kshatriya. Because he exhibited a quality which is inherent in his svabhava. What is that quality? Tolerance. Kshatriyas can endure any kind of physical pain. That's why they are in front in the wars. They're able to fight wars. But this is not very easy for the Brahmanas or for Vaishyas or Sudras. So then Parashuram said that you are not a Brahmana, but you are a Kshatriya. So you lied to me. And then he curses him. At the time of the need, in your deepest need, you will not remember any of these mantras. So that's what happened at the end of the Kurukshetra war. When he's at the time of the need, he forgot the divine mantras. But then Kshatriya said that, but still I didn't lie. I told you half truth. Because Suta means his mother is a Brahmin, but his father was a Kshatriya. But still, the truth was unknown to Karna. So, you see, although the truth was unknown to Karna, this swabhava, whatever the nature that he is acquired because of the three modes of material nature, that was coming out. And because Parashuram was very educated in the scriptural studies, he was able to identify what is the nature that Karna is. And it is proven to be true later when he comes to know that he is actually the son of Kunti, that he is actually a Kshatriya. So, seeing that an example as Karna, then we understand that although we want to repress it, it is not possible. It is as the second nature, because of the acquired material body, it shows these qualities. Now, how does the jiva get into the prakriti? Now, in the 13th chapter, which is entitled Nature, Enjoyer and Consciousness, here Kṛṣṇa explains karya karanam kartavye hetu prakriti uchyati. So, the prakriti is the cause of all the material, is the nature, the prakriti, the material nature is the cause of all material causes and effects. Whereas the living entity, Purusha sukha dukkham bhokter hetur uchyati. Whereas the living entity, being acquired that material nature, is enjoying happiness and distress. So Prabhupada writes in the Purport saying that the living entity either is blessed or damned by the circumstances due to its past desire. So because of the living entity's strong desire to enjoy the material nature, he is getting in contact with the material nature, and the material nature, which is the three modes of material nature, it's binding the living entity. And because of our inclinations towards different modes, we are given different kinds of bodies. Then 13.22, Kṛṣṇa says, Purusha prakritostohi bhūngte prakrita jana guna karanam guna sangasyo sad asad yoni janmashu. The living entity in the material nature, it's following its ways. Now, enjoying the three modes is we are thinking it is by default we are getting this body. But it's not by default. It is our desires, and it is our activities, and it is our present choices, our free will, which we are exercising, is actually leading us to like certain kinds of modes of material nature. A few days ago, I was traveling my home back, and I was in the train, and I was thinking that there are so many people who are serving in the train, like, some are caterers, some are sweeping, some are selling this and that. And I was thinking that why is that not every person has adapted to one kind of occupation? Why is that every person chose a different kind of activity to perform? If you ask me to sweep a train, I don't think I would be doing. But then I was thinking, how is that this jiva is ready to do it? So there is some inclination to certain work. It is not that someone is by default born in Brahmana family. By default, someone is a Kshatriya. By default, someone is a Vaishya. By default, someone is a Sudra. But it is our inclination to pursue in certain ways. Yeah, certain ways we are, the material nature provides that area of circumstances. Then it gives us the choices. And then we choose them. And we engage ourselves in that particular kind of activities. So, under the influence of material desires and under the influence of the material nature, because of our misidentification, we misuse our independence and we get into this binding of this material nature. Now, if you see this Laws of Nature book by Srila Prabhupada, if you see there are two men, they're quarreling, but there are three ladies, they're puppeting these two men quarreling. These people, they are thinking that they're just fighting, but they don't know that it is the three modes on top of them, it's actually controlling their activities. And Krishna says, but then how can one get relief from these three modes? Daiviyesha gunamayi mama māyā durataya mama eva prapatyante māyām eva tarantite. Krishna says in 7:14, here Prabhupada also mentions the same shloka in the Purport, saying that one can be relieved from the three modes when one surrenders to Krishna. Unless and until one surrenders to Krishna, they will have no relief from these three modes, because the material nature is such a force on the living entity, and the living entity being marginal is enticed towards to enjoy the material nature. This is because we have this competitive mentality. We want to compete with Krishna. The moment we want to be like Krishna, we want to compete with Krishna, we are looking for sources. And what is the sources that is provided? It is provided by Krishna's illusionary energy, Maya, which is nothing but the Prakriti, the three modes of material nature. And because it is providing that, we are forgetting our constitutional position, our true nature, that we are Krishna's servant. But what is how is that Krishna going to help us? If we want to surrender to Krishna, then we have to seek guidance of a devotee who is not under these modes of material nature, who is actually the spiritual master. In Bhagavatam 11th canto, when Narada Muni visits Vasudeva, there is a discussion about the Navayogendras and the teachings of Navayogendras. And in one of the verses, Navayogendra says, I don't remember who was it, but he says that, we have to take guidance of the spiritual master and make him worshipable, and he should be our life and soul. Because he is the only one who can help us to get out of this material modes of material nature. Otherwise, what happens in this Prakriti, in the name of anthropology, in the name of sociology or physiology, we are falling into deeper and deeper relative materialistic ignorances. And we start identifying with so many things, with the families, with the business, with the occupations, with the second nature, the whatever we have, the economic development, the sense gratification, and we are forgetting the absolute truth. Whereas the spiritual master, he shakes us up, and he tells us that no, this is not what you are. You are actually the eternal servant of Kṛṣṇa. Then Kṛṣṇa, then in the purport, it is a beautiful example is given. The sun is actually covered by the clouds. So as human beings, we cannot go and remove the clouds. Can we? No, we can't. But if sun wants to, it can remove the clouds by its effulgence, by burning the clouds. But actually the sun is responsible for the creation of the clouds. And only sun can remove the clouds. So similarly, the prakriti is under Kṛṣṇa's working. It can be it can be also removed only by Kṛṣṇa, not by us, or by the representative of Kṛṣṇa, because he is what was the verse of the Guru Ashtakam, the last one? Bhagavad Prasado. Because he is equal to Kṛṣṇa himself. The spiritual master is equal to Kṛṣṇa himself, because they both are in the same mission. That's why they are able to revive the living entity from the material nature. So now what is the problem in the, okay, we got the material body, we are under the three modes. Then what is the problem? I'm enjoying. Why do I need to take Kṛṣṇa? Right? Someone may ask this question. The problem is the instigator behind every activity that we do, the instigator is the lust, which we will see in the few verses. Arjuna will ask in verse 36. How is that, even a righteous person, he is forced, as if someone is pushing from behind, that he is engaging in the sinful activity, although he doesn't want to. Then Kṛṣṇa tells in 37 that, that's because of the karma, that's because of the lust. Even if you are thinking that, okay, I got a material body, I have the second nature and I'm enjoying, but that is not the end of it. It is the lust that is pushing us. And if you remember the 16th chapter, 16:21, Kṛṣṇa says, the three gates to hell is lust, greed, and anger. So all of us, we have an entry pass, right? We have an entry pass to the hell. We have the lust, we have the greed, we have the anger. So why do we want to degrade the soul? We don't want to go to hell. We want to enjoy. Now what is the enjoyment? That is what Kṛṣṇa is pointing out towards the spiritual world. Because here you don't have any enjoyment. Here is only suffering, and everything is temporary. Although it is temporary, but there is a continuous trial of suffering. So, Atmendriya Priti, that is kama, the lust. But Krishnendriya Priti, that is prema. So what Kṛṣṇa here is advising, you have acquired the svabhava, you have acquired the second nature. Now use that. You don't need to give it up. You don't need to suppress it. But use the same thing in service of me. So he's not telling you to leave it, but he's telling you to engage that. So lust is such a thing that you cannot entertain, because it's like pouring ghee onto the fire. What happens if you pour ghee onto the fire? It just blazes. Now you can't suppress it. You put a pot on the fire. What happens? You can't stop the fire. But what the lust can be done, it can be engaged. Now this selfishness, self-centeredness can be engaged in Kṛṣṇa's service. Now lust is a very self-absorbing, if you have noticed. It's a very self-absorbing activity. It doesn't mean that it necessarily be a sensual thing. But anything that is not helping us to connect with Kṛṣṇa, that is all lust. It is all lusty activities only. So Kṛṣṇa is saying that you don't need to give up your second nature. Use your second nature in such a way that you will be engaged in my service, and it will become the karma yoga, which is nothing but bhakti yoga. Use your activities. Now we have seen another example in Canto 6, Ajamil. Now Ajamil is a Brahmana. He studied Vedas, he was engaged in ritualistic activities. But one fine morning, he was prey to the lust. So just by performing some pious activity itself is not going to be a protection from the lust itself, right? But his utterance of the holy name and furthermore listening to the discussions, association with the Vishnu Dutas, and listening to the discussions of the glories of the holy name, then he perfected in his devotional service. So without devotional service, a living entity cannot be purified. It's just like a liquor pot. You may throw off the liquor and you may wash it in all kinds of rivers. You go to every prominent river and wash the liquor pot. But if you smell it, it smells the same. So Sukadeva Goswami says that non-devotees can adopt many different kinds of processes. But at the end, their nature won't be changed. But someone engages, in devotional service by body, mind, words, they will be purified instantly. And what is the example that Sukadeva Goswami gives? Kechit kevalaya bhaktya vasudeva parayana agham dunvanti kashnena niharam iva bhaskara. Just like on a foggy morning, cold winter foggy day, the sun has not arisen on the horizon yet. But the rays are coming. The rays itself will clear the fog. So anyone who has taken to the path of devotional service, onto the service to Kṛṣṇa, they can uproot these weeds of the sinful reactions. And then they can revive their true nature. Then interestingly, in 1622 Purport, which is nice to read, Prabhupada writes, one should be very careful of these three enemies to human life, which we were discussing, lust, greed, and anger. The more a person is freed from lust, anger, and greed, more his existence becomes pure. Then he can follow the rules and regulations enjoyed in the Vedic literature. By following the regulative principles of human life, one gradually raises himself to the platform of spiritual realization. If one is so fortunate by such practice to rise to the platform of Krishna consciousness, then success is guaranteed to him. In the Vedic literature, the ways of action and reaction are prescribed to enable one to come to the stage of purification. The whole method is based upon giving lust, greed, and anger. By cultivating the knowledge of this process, one can be elevated to the highest position of self-realization. This self-realization is perfected in devotional service. In that devotional service, the liberation of the conditioned soul is guaranteed. Therefore, according to the Vedic system, there are instituted the 4 orders of life and 4 statuses of life called the caste system and the spiritual order system. There are different rules and regulations for different castes or divisions of society, and if a person is able to follow them, automatically raised to the highest platform of spiritual realization, then he can have liberation without a doubt. So here, again, Prabhupada is emphasizing that, following the Varnashrama system, following their own Varnas, own ashramas, they will be elevated in their Krishna consciousness. But again, this Varnashrama system should be centered around Krishna. This is what is described in the Bhagavatam. Atha pumbe dvija shrestha varnashrama vibhagasya swanutthisthaya dharmasya samsiddhir haritoshna. So he is attained by discharging any kind of prescribed duties if they are connecting that to Krishna and to the devotional service. So in the Purport, Prabhupada again mentions that this Varnashram system is not an artificial dominance of one over the another, but it is actually a very organized situation where every varna they can express their inherent swabhavik qualities that they have acquired in this material body. So, but in the Kali-yuga, this varnashrama system is made into very caste system based on the births. But actually it is based on the gunas that one has acquired. So what Kṛṣṇa here is saying in conclusion, that practice devotion. Devotion and practice will lead you to devotion and perfection. Don't just give up the acquired nature. You are a kshatriya, so you're meant to fight. So don't think that, just giving up your duty as a kshatriya, you will be elevated. But instead, if you are working for me, then you will be elevated. Now, we also know that what is the foundational principle of Krishna consciousness is always to remember Krishna and never to forget Krishna. All the rules and regulations and all the provisions in the Shastra govern to this principle. That any activity that we do should help us to achieve this factor. That we should always remember Krishna and never forget Krishna. And this is what Krishna again tells in 9:27. This is in the most confidential knowledge. What is Krishna recommending? Yad karosi, yad asnosi, yad juhosi dadati yad tapasvi kaunteya, tad kurusva mad arpanam. So whatever you do, whether you eat, whether you or whatever offer, whatever you give away, whatever you do as an offering to me. And by that, one will be able to raise themselves. Then in the last concluding words, Prabhupada says, according to one's svabhava or nature, one may work as an intellectual or a priest or as an administrator or as a military man, as an agriculturist or a mercantile man or as a laborer or a craftsman. And while working, everyone should meditate on the Supreme Personality of Godhead, thinking, Yat Sakalam Parasmai Narayana. I am working for the Supreme Lord. Whatever result comes from my work, I shall accept the bare minimum for my personal maintenance, and the rest I shall offer for the glorification of Lord Narayan. So, by doing this, we won't fall into the category of the pseudo-transcendentalist or imitators, but actually we will be elevated in our Krishna consciousness. If there are any corrections or questions or comments, most welcome. Thank you. Yes, Prabhu. Yes.
So in this age, mostly everyone is born a Shudra. So the nature is to work for others. But there are no Brahmanas, Kshatriyas and Vaishyas.
Yeah, everyone is born Sudra, but we can offer the services to Krishna then.
So alternative is just that.
Yes, we just need to engage in Krishna's service. But as we also have seen that, how we are coming in contact with Krishna consciousness, our inclinations are also exhibited out. Not everyone is also on the same level. Some are very Brahmanically very oriented, some are very administrated, some are very good in Vaishyas. So in Kali-yuga, everyone is mixed up. So
Still, the prominent quality can be
yes,
used in Krishna's
Krishna service, yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Here it is advised that do not give up your occupation.
Mm.
But what about false knowledge like science and technology, maths, etc.? If that do not lead us to Krishna consciousness, and it is diverting to the children, etc.
Yeah.
So what are we doing? Spreading all that knowledge.
No, we are spreading Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. You have the option to teach your children Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam. But again, you can use all your educational, material education in helping people to connect with the Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam. I can give you an example. In 15th chapter, I show you. This is 15:13, if I believe. Yeah, 15:13. Krishna says, I become the moon and thereby supply the juice of life to all the vegetables. Now here Krishna is saying that he is the moon and he is giving this energy to the vegetables as the juice. This is how the vegetables and fruits, they become nourished, right? Now in Australia there are a crop called biodynamic crops. So this is an invention of the modern people, modern scientists. Now what do? They plant these seeds according to the phases of the moon. Either we know that the Krishna Paksha and Sukla Paksha, the waning and waxing of the moon. So according to the waning and waxing of the moon, different seeds are planted in the soil and they get nourished. And this is brought out into the market saying that this is the most organic. So we have the knowledge, what the modern invention, you connect that with what is already described in Gita. They haven't invented anything new. This is already Krishna has spoken in Bhagavad Gita, right? So we can bring the similarities and we can connect people to Krishna consciousness. We can show, we don't need to discard everything. Yes, there are things that we can be discarded as well, but the utility is the principle, how Prabhupada says. Utility is the principle. How can I utilize this particular skill or art or education in Krishna's service? Yeah. Thank you. If there are... Yes. Yes. Here Krishna explains that if we engage everything as a sacrifice, if we are offering everything as a sacrifice as to Krishna, that is nothing but bhakti yoga, because there is no selfish personal desire in it. You will see in the 5th chapter, Prabhupada titled as Karma Yoga, but he says that action in Krishna consciousness. So here he will be describing about a person who is doing the same activities as a normal karmi, but his consciousness is completely rooted in Krishna's satisfaction. So that's why it's bhakti yoga. But if we are just talking about karma yoga, but having something, still I have some stinges, for my personal gratification, that is not yet bhakti yoga. So any activity that we do without any personal desire, that is actually the bhakti yoga. So this is actually Nishkama Karma Yoga. Yes. Yes. Because in the Karma Yoga, we start out with the Karma Kanda, that we have some faith in the scriptures, and then we start following the rules and regulations from the scripture. That is Karma Kanda. But again, our intention is to everything, I will use the scriptures, but I'll get the benefits. That was the first level. Now the second level is Karma Yoga, where I have inclinations, a certain kind of inclination to a particular kind of activity, but I will still use it for Krishna. Now the next level is, I will work, I don't have any attachment for the work, and I don't have any personal desire. This is completely for Krishna. And Krishna gives an example of Janak Maharaj. Janak Maharaj, he is actually, he's called Maharishi. What was he? Raj Rishi. He is called Raj Rishi because although he's living a life like a Raja, but he's actually a Rishi. He didn't have any personal desire. He's just managing and maintaining the kingdom only so that people can be benefited for Krishna consciousness. So there are different levels. But someone performing completely all the activities only and only for Krishna, they have no personal interest for themselves, then that is bhakti yoga. Yeah, that's my understanding. If there are any other questions or comments. If not, thank you. Please forgive me for my shortcomings. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai.